So you leave Shamiso for good and you go up to set up Galaxy Records.
Yes.
How did that happen? Where did you get the money to finance this?
I didn't have any. I started knocking again, door to door. The first door I knocked on was Tony Adonis. I needed a studio. I needed somewhere just to record. So I had only sort of two artists in mind that I was going to work with. Plexidus Wenyika. I met Plexidus during the time when I was still at Shamiso. And I sort of kept her as a little secret because I met her close towards the end of my time at Shamiso. I put her on that David Chifunyise record,
Kwayedza.
the Kwayedza song. Plexidus came to me as a rapper. She wanted to rap.
Plexidus actually came in as a rapper. And same thing happened to her. Delani asks her, okay, you can rap, fine. Can you sing? And lucky for her, she could sing. So
she walked in the studio and she rapped for me and said, hey, I'm studying an economics degree at the UZ, I want to rap. So she raps. And then I thought, okay, why don't you sing for me? She sang a few and I could hear the huskiness of her voice, but very untrained. And I thought, do you mind me teaching you how to sing and how to use your voice better? She was very open to that. And then Plexidus became my pet project. We went to Tony Adonis' studio because that was the closest studio I could think of. Tony Adonis' studios where artists like Movip were being recorded.
Where were they based?
He was based in that area. Is it called Eastleigh? No.
Eastleigh, yeah.
Yeah. And so we went to Tony Adonis. I didn't have studio time. Innocent Chuma pulled out money from his own pocket to pick up Plexidus from her house at Westgate. She used to stay in that Westgate Marlborough area. Mm-hmm. So every day at night, we used to hire Tony Adonis' studio at night.
Who was paying for that?
My ex-wife.
Get out of here.
Yeah.
She was still your girlfriend then?
No, not really. Yeah, she was still my girlfriend then, yes.
Or she was working?
Yeah, she had a full-time job. So her and Innocent Chuma, but she paid the bulk of it.
So your ex-wife and Innocent Chuma are the executive producers to this project?
Yes, but it's not really the project per se. They were financing Plexidus's training school. Oh. Because Plexidus hadn't recorded, but I was trying to groom her into an R&B singer. But she's not a singer yet. She's got the potential, but not yet. So we needed to put her in studio to start training her. So we would spend several hours going through certain songs, training her, at the same time trying to decide what material.
What do you tell Innocent Chuma and your ex-wife for them to believe in this dream so much?
Well, it wasn't difficult because I'd already come up with both of them. At the time she was my girlfriend, and at the time, she was my girlfriend. So she had seen the evolution of it. She was making a little bit of money here and there. We were living together, sort of. Not yet married, and she helps here and there with a bit of studio time. And we negotiated with Tony Adonis to get like that dead hour studio time. So that studio time that's sold at like 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night.
At like a very low rate.
So it's a silly rate. And Tony, because I'd been studio hopping with Tony since I was a kid, and Tony knew me, it was easy for Tony to be flexible.
Right.
So Tony gave me so many hours, which was so-called free hours. He was just taking something just to cover, I'm sure, just electricity. But I think he was just really just doing it out of the generosity of his goodness. Bless the man. So Tony Adonis there, she's funding that. We're picking up Plexidus. So Innocent is committed. I'll pick up Plexidus, pick her up and drop her off at home. And that was the routine for 9 months.
9 months?
Yeah.
So Who else are you recording besides Plexidus?
I'm not recording anyone at the time. I'm just partially working with Sunny, because Sunny being my brother.
Yes.
I'm also sort of trying him out, but I was convinced to start with Plexidus.
So there's no Galaxy Records at the time?
Nope. We'd registered it, but there's nothing there at the time.
So how then does it become this thing that we know, that produces some of the greatest artists to ever grace the land?
I then took this demo. Again, I've made a demo of Plexidus. Now, this demo is made up of songs that I had written.
Which songs are these?
Tisa Paradzane.
Classic.
I wrote the song in English, then got it translated into Shona through the help of Willem Tite and Carlos Jongwa.
Oh, man.
They helped me translate the song. Once the song had been translated into Shona from English, you know, because it's Mudiwa Ndokudane Moyo. The original was, oh baby, I love you with all my heart, and as long as we're together, we would never be apart. So it was written in English. I gave it to Plexidus. I said, there you go, sing that song. And I started giving her other songs as well. And this is also now a time when I'm also teaching Plexidus how to write songs. When I say write, is that I was coming with melodies, but I don't have, because I'm not Shona. So I don't have the Shona words to write. So I'm coming to her and saying, this is the tune. It goes, la da di de do do di da di da.
Was born.
And then she goes home with the recording of that and starts to write Shona lyrics to that tune.
And that's how you create.
That's how we created most of the songs on that album. So your Pasinaiwe, I remember going to her at university when she had just finished some lecture at 7 o'clock. I said, I got a song, come through, I want to hear it, I want you to record it. And I went there and I said,
classic song.
We recorded that. I said to her, it's probably a song about friendships, passing away, something, figure it out. So she goes home and she writes lyrics to that.
And how does Sunny become part of the record?
Now, because I like to leverage one artist of another. Okay, so when Plexidus became famous with Tisa Paradzane, it just allowed the continuation of other songs. So we started doing Wadari Ray, we started doing other songs. When Pasinaiwe came in, I thought, because initially I wanted to give the song to Sunny, Pasinaiwe, but I thought, still too early on. Let's use this as a song that can branch Sunny off. At the same time, I've been working with Sunny on Vulela.
So classic record.
It needed it was just two powers to make it work as a duet.
So when do you then move to Magole Plaza, this great studio that everyone talks about?
So what happened with that is that I'm busy hopping around, and then I hear of a guy called Lenox Chibanda, my fifth king.
Fifth king.
Now, Lenox Chibanda, he was the owner / manager of a jazz band called The Other Four. He was also I believe a co-owner of Honeydew Farm.
Along...
in Greendale.
Yeah.
So he's just a retailer. Businessman who loves music, in his spare time puts money in some jazz band that plays for him and his friends, and they get happy. Yeah. I hear of a studio that he has that he's not using. So I go to see him at the Honeydew Farm. I say, please, can I have a meeting with you? This is the situation. I explained to him, I set up a business proposal. I want to record and finish Plexidus. Now, the intention was initially just to go to him and use his studio to finish Plexidus's studio, because his studio was high quality, a bit better than what I was using with Tony Adonis's studio. And I'd already sort of structured the songs for the Plexidus album, but I needed a better quality studio to finish them off. So my intention was to go to him and work out a deal of how we can record and I can pay for the studio time. He says to me he'll think about it, come back tomorrow. Following day, he calls me and says, "Are we still meeting?" We meet again after work at the Red Fox Hotel, which is just opposite the honeydew farm.
Yeah.
We sit down. After sitting down, we discuss. He says to me, "I got a better idea. I know your work and I know what you've done. Why don't we get into partnership? But partnership in another business idea that he's had." And I said, "Okay, what business idea is this?" He says, "Have you ever recorded adverts?" Is in what do you mean, adverts? It says like radio commercials. Have you ever recorded those? And I said to him, not really, but I'm sure I can do it. He says, "I need somebody who can record radio adverts and go out there and look for radio adverts," because he says he bought the studio with that intention. And the person that he had intended to work with decided not to work with him, or they decided not to work together. So the studio had been sitting for a whole year, not being used. So he says he sees a lot of money in advertising and he wants to use it ideally for that purpose. But he wanted to find out from me if I was keen in running with the advertising side of the operations during the day. And then I could always buy studio time at night.
Like perfect.
So I said, okay, this is a great opportunity. I could run around, look for adverts during the day, go to the different advertising agency, Barker McCormack, Lintus, who you name it, just go find different adverts out there, bring them in, record them, push them out. And then once we make money from that, use that money to pay for my studio time that I need to do my own personal projects. And that's sort of how it worked. Lenox and I became business partners. We set up a studio for advertising purposes, which ran pretty much from 8 o'clock to 5 o'clock. And then from 5 o'clock to midnight, I ran Galaxy Records. All my share dividends that I was making from Galaxy, from the advertising, were paying for studio time. So I worked out a deal with him for studio time to say, this is the rate per studio for studio time. He found it comfortable. And I pushed. And that's when I started doing a lot of adverts, and I pushed and started undercutting a lot of studios, building relationships in the advertising industry. And we did a number of adverts.
All this was so that you can
finance it.
You can just finance it.
Yeah, so I pushed, made so much from the advertising that Lenox even himself fell off his seat the first month after.
It's like, how are you doing this?
How are you bringing in so much? At the time, I think the first month we grossed like 13 million. So that kind of money allowed for me to be able to, one, give Lenox his cut. We were equal partners. Number two, it allowed for me to pour a percentage of my share into financing Galaxy, the studio, and the records, and start paying for Plexidus's records, start paying for Sunny's records, recording that is, start paying for Roy and Royce.
How did you meet Roy and Royce?
Can't remember, but I think they came to studio, if I recall. A lot of the artists that I then met thereafter were just coming to studio. Magola's Plaza just became infested with so many artists. Even the landlords were beginning to complain. So it became even a situation where I now had to schedule when the artists needed to come. Weekends, it was cooking because I wasn't doing my daytime advertising job. So I had the opportunity to work and see a lot more and audition more people during the weekend. During the week is when I obviously started scheduling the studio session. So I was recording people after hours. And it blew up, especially when Plexidus started getting a lot of radio airplay. Mind you, Innocent Chuma is still in the game. He's still with me, he's still a partner with me in the business. We are pushing, getting that local content going.
So Innocent Chuma was also part ownership of Galaxy Records?
Indirectly. because for lack of an element of conflict of interest, you know, it made sense for me to put him in there because he had seen me through it. He had already invested, but he was a very, for lack of a better word, a very silent director. But I don't, you know, for lack of what a lot of people might think is that did it influence, you know, his airplay and him playing certain songs on radio? No. He was a very impartial, at least in my view, person. He took talent for what it was. And even to this point, his sowing into Galaxy was purely a labor out of love, a labor out of seeing locally grown talent become. But yes, he was part of my director's maybe not shareholders, but he was part of my directors in the business because he advised me a lot on, you know, one certain artist that we need to consider giving an opportunity to, you know. He brought a lot of different people, like your Honey Vibes. He brought your Shama.
Wait, you recorded all the Honey Vibes record Tamari?
Yes.
That's you?
Yes. So he brought your Honey Vibes. He brought at the time it was a Shamiso, a different Shamiso.
Goma.
Not Shamiso Goma, because Shamiso Goma I met somewhere else. She's the youngest artist I've ever recorded. But there was another girl called Shamiso who came through as well. He brought quite a number of different artists, people who he just came across who he thought had a bit of talent, and you'd say, D, what do you think? D, what do you think? And some of those artists became, you know, quite fairly established and got an opportunity at least to record one song with me. Mm-hmm. I had a philosophy to not record a lot of songs with the artists. I sort of wanted to replicate the future model, but at the same time, I was cognizant now that there was a need for us to grow in industry. By that, I mean, I needed to create the illusion that there were a lot of artists in the music industry for everybody to start taking us seriously. So the only way I could do it was to record 1-2 songs with 50 artists. That way we could take over radio. Because when you then take over radio, you got 50 different artists all being played consecutively, one after another. And it then creates the impression that there's a lot of musicians in the country. Yet the truth of the matter is that each one has only got like 2 songs. And then from that, again, you identify who is making a success. You know, who is the one that people are enjoying? And can you then take that and build on it?
Oh, that's why from the Galaxy era, Roy and Royce, Plexidus Wenyika, and maybe major players were some of the few artists who had actual projects, like full-on projects that were out.
Yeah. What I did start with, I was convinced to work on an album with Plexidus. I was obligated by family to work on Sunny's album. So those two were a given.
Sunny or Finesse?
Yeah, well, Finesse had already ended. Sunny and Tabo obviously had their time, and I think I needed to concentrate a lot more on Sunny, in as much as Tabo was very talented as well.
So we did the Vulela EP?
That's when we did the Vulela track, and we put it out there. And again, I was trying to, you know, groom him into like a male version of Plexidus, or vice versa, Plexidus, a female version of Sunny. So you got the male R&B and the female R&B. And then you start building on everything else. But it didn't work out that way in terms of our release strategy. Our release strategy was that as much as I'd now finished recording the projects, the songs were now playing on radio. So I got Handi Reggae playing on radio.
Reggae Monster.
I've got Tisa Paradzane and a couple other songs playing on radio, and everybody's beginning to like it. And I'm having a scenario now where I need to actually make product. I'd promised Plexidus to release her first, because I'd already been with Plexidus for a year. She's been waiting since Kwayedza, since 2000 and wherever, 2001. But it didn't work out that way. I got a very enthusiastic man who became my 6th king.
Who's that?
A man by the name of Elemon Tawundi. Elemon Tawundi He's an investment banker. He's a broker. He worked for a bank. He heard Handirege on radio one fine morning while listening to the Millennium Man, the People's Champion, Innocent Chuma, on 3FM. He's hearing the song playing. He says, who is it? He calls Innocent and says, who is it? He says, no, it's Roy and Royce. Who did the record? Innocent explains that this is Delani, go and see him. He says, why is this song available? Can we buy it? He's told that you can't buy it, not yet.
It's not available.
It's not yet available. It's just a teaser, okay? Elemon is not happy with that. He's a young man. Yeah, probably maybe 2-3 years younger than me. Young man says, no, I can't have that. This song needs to go out now. So the strategy was, let's release Plexidus, do 1,000 cassettes, do a couple of CDs, release that, make money from that, take out the initial 1,000 that we had put in,
Roy and Royce.
take the profit, put it into Roy and Royce, make money from Roy and Royce, take out the 1,000 from there, take that, put it to the next project, and so forth. So it was really a ripple effect that I was trying to build, where we invested in the first 1,000. After investing in the first 1,000, we make a profit, take that small profit, make 500 for the next artist. That builds again, make a profit, 500 into the next artist, 500 into the next artist, and so forth. So I was ready to put it into Plexidus. Elemon says, no, no, no.
I want Handrege.
Let's put it into
Roy and
Royce. I said, if you've got the money, bring the money, and we will make Roy and Royce for you.
And usually on the money conversation is where people depart.
Yeah.
But he had the money.
Mr. Tawundi said, call me in the afternoon. I went to the bank in the afternoon. He gave me money to make the Roy and Royce.
How many cassettes?
We did 1,000.
Is it true that the first time these record companies wouldn't pick your, they didn't want to distribute urban music?
Yeah, that's very true. We tried to get a distribution deal from Grammar. They were only prepared to do it, but they were not prepared to finance the cassettes. So they could do it, they can put it out there, but they're not going to finance it. So the biggest hurdle was to actually finance it.
What does financing it mean?
It means getting the actual money to pay for the 1,000 cassettes to be made. It was a minimum that you could make. So you could make 1,000 cassettes. So now you had to make the cassette. You also had to make the cover, the little paper that goes in the sleeve that goes in there. And that in itself was a cost. I hadn't finished raising the money to finance Plexidus. So I was on the verge of getting there, but I hadn't finished. Tawundi comes and he gives me all the money to finance Roy and Royce. I sit down with our queen and I say, Miss Wenyika, unfortunately, we would like to switch this thing
She was
around.
not happy about it.
No, she was. She was very gracious. She was very gracious about it. She says, no, as long as it happens, you know. And, you know, as grace would happen and God intervening, we made the first 1,000 cassettes for Roy and Royce, and they were sold in an hour. We literally took them out of Grammar, put them into the boot. Then the flea market guys walked past saying, what's in the boot? What cassette do you have in there? We told them, this is Roy and Royce Handirege. They clamored around this car and bought all 1,000 in 1 hour. We took the same cash, went back into Grammar, and mind you, I've got the Plexidus master CD master in my car. We give them the money to make another 1,000 for Roy and Royce. And Mr. Murombo looks at me. He was the CEO at the time, or the managing director of Grammar. He says, what happened to the 1,000 that I gave you an hour ago? I told him, hey, my man, I just finished selling it just outside. So please make another 1,000 for me. I'll pick it up in another 3 days. And please make the first 500 for Plexidus. I give him the master copy. So by the time I went back to the studio, I was calling Plexidus to say, we've already put yours in circulation. Yet it was just the night before where we were talking to her saying, please give us grace to run with Roy and Royce first. So she only literally waited 2 days before she could be released as well. And that became the ripple effect. The money that was made from Roy and Royce was then made to finance Plexidus. Plexidus's money financed Shame and Nathan. Shame and Nathan financed Decibel. Decibel financed Major Players. Major Players financed Sunny, and so forth. It just became a ripple effect from there.